Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's episode 250 of the Audible Farm podcast. 250. Wow. And it's brought to you by the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association. Go to www.fdfineartsassociation.org to find out more. They've got a great community calendar there. There's also a link right at the top up there to their podcast. So check their podcast out. It's called FDT. It comes out once a month and comes out tomorrow. Wow, it's already coming out tomorrow. Holy cow. Woo, all right. The days just keep coming. All right, so check it out, and there's a link to their website right down below, so check that out too. This episode, I'm sitting down with Dan Zehr. I met Dan at a jam night, and it was fun to get to, know him over the years. He's always up there playing slide guitar. He's great at playing background slide, and then you're just like, kick it, Dan, play a solo, and he just starts wailing a solo. So it's fun to watch him play like the lap steel and slide guitar, dobro, things like that. So this is just a fun one. I know Dan. I've known him for years, but I've never really sat down and had like a long drawn out conversation with him about like where he's from and what's happened and things like that. And he's got such a great story. There's a lot of things in here that were very thought provoking for me. So it's just great to sit down and talk with him. And I hope you guys enjoy this episode. It's episode 250 with Dan Zehr.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
Sit down with Dan Zehr. Dan, I met you at a jam in Barnum originally, and I've seen you at many jams in Barnum. As a matter of fact, I've seen you at a lot of jams everywhere. You're kind of like a guy that just goes to all the jams. You sit in the corner, you play the slide guitar, and I like to think of you as like a fearless guitar player because it doesn't really matter the style or who's up there. You're like, I'll figure something out. And that's one of the things I always enjoyed about you. So let's talk a little bit about, what band are you in now? Let me go there first. A nice little palate cleanser for everybody right at the beginning.
Well, I'm fortunate to have met Gene Walker, Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Famer that lives in Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Yeah.
And he invited me to a campfire jam on a Friday night.
Nice.
And just acoustic jam, and I had a good time. That's my favorite thing to do is a campfire jam with Gene Walker and the boys.
Yeah. So
and Casey.
Oh yeah. Who is Gene Walker, Casey, you, and there's four of you, right?
Not anymore.
Okay. There was four of
Jordan at one time. Jordan Reuter.
Yep.
And that's another blessing for me to get to play with a young man that I saw grow up across the street from me in Manson.
Oh wow, that's
and
cool.
Now he's got a path in music.
Yeah.
And get a chance to play with him occasionally.
Dude, he grew up, got married. He's got a kid, doesn't he?
Oh yeah.
That's wild. That's so crazy. Growing up across the street, some little kid. That's super fun.
Yeah. Now he's a troubadour.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's one of the fun things. He kind of took some time off, and now he's like busier than he's ever been.
Oh,
Yeah.
That
seems to be the way it goes. I feel like everyone kind of goes through those like ebbs and flows with the music. You play a whole pile of shows for a few years, and then you kind of take a little bit of time off, and then all of a sudden you're hitting it hard again.
Family time.
Bingo. Yeah.
Family time.
I'm not going to fault anyone for spending some family time. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So how did you start like playing music? What was your first instrument? Did you start on a guitar or piano or trumpet?
My mom made sure our family had a Hammond chord organ in the 1950s, late 50s, early 60s.
I feel like those were common and popular in houses. I mean, not like common, but I've seen a few of them around.
Yeah, well, there was a Hammond chord or organ salesman that went to our church, and so I'm sure that was a good.
That's freaking cool.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
It was Bender organ in Fort Dodge here.
Oh, okay.
So people might remember that.
All right.
And Mrs. Bender that maybe gave me organ lessons.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so that was Well, when I got into junior high school, I played a trombone.
I was going to say, you struck me as a trombone player.
Yeah, I could honk a trombone a little bit. And
does anybody else do that? Did anybody else that grew up in band look at somebody like this dude's a trumpet player? You know he is. That's super
there's some
funny.
Naturals,
Yeah.
You see them grow up and they're really good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just fun. I think personalities follow those types of instruments around.
Yeah.
So you played some trombone in school.
Yeah.
What'd you think of that?
I don't really like the high school band music all that much. I kind of lost interest in that, but picking up a cheap guitar while I was in high school.
Oh, cool.
Then I had a guitar and a harmonica from that point on, probably when I was 16 years old.
Oh, cool. So guitar, harmonica. I mean, that was another combo that was pretty common around that time span.
Yeah. And I loved harmonica because you could stick it in your pocket.
Dude, that makes me think of one of my favorite. You know what The Far Side is? Those comics. So my favorite one is a bunch of guys. They're cowboys and they're sitting around a campfire on the range, in the middle of the night or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And the one looks at the other one and says, "When are you gonna bust that thing out and play us a jingle?" And he's got a whole piano in his back pocket. It's just bigger than the whole frame of them. It's what is this nonsense? I don't know. So that's what. Yeah, I get the appeal of the harmonica, but I feel like. And this is going to sound dumb because I did this with guitar. I had, zero talent to where I'm at now. And I looked at people and I looked up to them and I'm like, this is cool. I want to do this. But with harmonica, it's I get it kind of, but then there's people doing stuff with the harmonica that's just beyond anything I could even figure out, and it's so daunting. I feel.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the harmonica was harder to learn or the guitar?
Well, I'm still learning both. They're both equally as hard, and there are many people, everybody plays better than I do. Mm-hmm. I just got to keep plugging at my own tempo and doing my thing.
Well, I mean, that's pretty cool. I never really thought of it like that, but it's weird because I've picked out, once you kind of figure out the guitar, it's anything with strings, I bet I can kind of at least get the gist of, and, to that extent, I can kind of play a ukulele. I know the chords and I'm not as good as somebody that's good at it, but I know what I'm doing to an extent. And then I started learning the mandolin for a while, and then it's that's not terribly, I mean, it's different, but it's not ridiculous. I've never tried a violin.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always think things that aren't that are mystical for some reason. There was something so weird where it's I got a trumpet, it has 3 buttons, and it's well, I got a saxophone, it has 47 keys. Yeah. And then it's well, I got a trombone and it just slides around. What the heck is that? It's I got a tuba and it's got 3, but it's not the same as the trumpet. I mean, it kind of is, but it's not, and it's so those, I feel harmonica, it's well, I'm blowing into these tiny little holes in this strip of wood. Who thought of the harmonica first?
Yeah, it's an old instrument. Yeah, it's European. I haven't researched the history of it.
I'd love to look that up and see what it was. See if somebody had they made a duck call, but then they had 10 of them and they put them in a row or something. I don't know. But no, it's really cool. You did the harmonica thing though.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then I got into construction, and about the same time, going to college and stuff. The Allman Brothers were an inspiration to me. Mm-hmm. Slide guitar. Oh, yeah. That's the introduction to slide guitar is Duane Allman and Eric Clapton and guys like that were guitar inspirations to me. And anytime I heard Low Down Lonesome Harmonica wail, that was always an inspiration to me too. And whether it's blues or country music, the harp adds a quality unmatched here,
Yeah, I always feel the harmonica, especially because if you pick the correct key, there's no wrong notes in theory, generally speaking. So you can kind of just honk about anything out and it sounds good. And that's how I play the harmonica. What key is it? All right, this is going to be good no matter what I do.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's not that simple though either though.
Yeah.
I wish it was, but so when you were playing, like when you first picked up a guitar, did you have like a sibling that also played, or a buddy at school, or did you have a teacher or somebody that helped you?
When I was in high school, just myself at home. But after I graduated, during a couple of years of college, I met guys that I'd jam with a little bit, and that's what I really enjoyed, was jamming with other people. And I had opportunities to join bands, but didn't look like enough money to support a family at the time. This was in the early 70s.
Oh, so that was when bands were like, they were bands. It's like, well, we're playing, whatever, 3 or 4 nights a week, and they have an agent that sends them to South Dakota. That they were bands, They played, because that was when there was like ballrooms and things like that, a lot of that stuff going on. So, man, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but man, that was 50 years ago.
Yeah, it was 50 years ago.
Man, that's crazy. I can't remember what I thought of the other day. Oh, it was like class reunions, and I was just like, man, I'm getting old. These class reunion numbers are getting pretty big here. But yeah, I always think having somebody there to like kind of play along with, another band, a buddy, just somebody to sit there and just goof around with, was kind of like what got me to the next level as far as like a guitar player. Did you have any troubles like figuring out music theory, or did you like borrow from what you knew from piano or like the organ and then transfer it to guitar, or did you take the trombone and transfer it over?
Well, actually, I took music theory at Iowa Central.
Awesome. I did too.
Just for my own knowledge, and I can transfer that theory to all instruments and vocals.
Yeah. So did you, and this, I'm assuming this is true, you played the organ, so you knew piano and organ, basically the same thing. So you knew the layout of what I call like the best visual for music theory. Yeah, it's just like, well, this is sharps and flats are black, and then everything else is white, and then the keys are just the steps away. But so like one thing I thought about that with the piano is like, well, what if you transpose from G to G sharp? It's not, your fingers aren't hitting the same.
No,
you have to move them.
Everything moves. Yeah.
But with a guitar, it's just like, all right, slide everything up 1 fret, and then just the exact same everything else, And I thought that was one of the funnest things about the guitar when I finally realized it was that easy compared to the piano, which is what I use to learn music theory. And I'm not a piano player. I just use it as this visual thing and something to help me write like chord structures and things when I would walk through stuff for projects or whatever. So it's kind of cool you took music theory. Did you take that like after high school, or did you like?
Yeah, after high school at Iowa Central. John McCarthy was the teacher's name. The
Sounds
professor.
Familiar.
Yeah, he was there a long time, and I really respected him. He died pretty young in an accident.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
So at what point in time did you decide you were actually going to try and like play with a band, or were you just kind of a guy that was like, I have this hobby that I enjoy, and whenever I find the time to sit around a campfire with somebody, I'll bust out the goods?
Well, about the time our kids, we got 3 sons, and we were devoted to following them through high school and college, and going to sporting events and activities with our kids and stuff. But once they're out of the house, then, well, get a little more time, I could go to look for places to play some music, and started getting together with local guys and playing at the time, and led to a 3-piece in Manson for a while, and a couple local guys, and then, like I say, got a call from Gene Walker to invite me to a campfire jam, and that's turned into meeting quite a few musicians through him, and then retiring. I have time to stop over at Barnum and find out there's a jam night there.
Yeah, that was legendary. I mean, like, I spent every Tuesday for like 4 or 5 years in Barnum.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I would say 50 weeks a year I did that. It was insane. I love that place so much, and just going there to jam. That was like where I kind of got used to playing with other people, and got used to, like, someone's like, I'm playing this song, and you're like, I don't even know what this. I've never even heard of this guy, and they're like, no, here it's these chords, and you're like, all right, you just follow along.
Yeah.
By the way, the capo is on 6, and you're like, 6? What are we doing here? Okay.
Let's see.
Yep. And then exactly. At first, you're like counting frets off with your pointer fingers, and then eventually you're just like, all right, I get what he's doing here. Once you figure out the slide up and just same pattern kind of deal, it's not as bad. But going to those jams is super fun, and it's fun. We were talking about people being family oriented and not faulting them for it, and that sounds like that was the path you took as well. Was work and support your family. And did you spend any time while you were doing all that through the 20 plus years, I'm assuming, where you had kids in school doing things? Did you have time at all to play the instrument? Did you play around the house, or
I played for an occasional wedding or
cool.
Just when anybody asked me to. Mm-hmm. But also at that time, I was in construction, and I always knew these construction workers that were missing fingers and body damage, and that's when I started messing around with slide guitar.
Oh yeah.
I thought, if I lose a finger and I can't play guitar anymore, I can still play slide.
Oh yeah. I saw a video today of some guy that was like born with like nubs. He like barely has like half of the top half of his arms. Plays guitar better than I do. It's like, what the heck? And then so I started like kind of keying in on this guy, watching some of his videos, and then it starts showing me somebody that's like might be from like India or something like that, and he doesn't have any arms like at all, and he takes his shoes off and plays guitar better with his feet than I do. And it's like, what in the world is this? I don't know. Some of that stuff, it's like, this isn't a restriction, because like this person now has a different playing field. There's different laws and different rules that apply. Yeah. A good example of that might be Jeff Healey.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so for those that don't know, Roadhouse, the original Roadhouse, which I didn't watch for the longest time because I just thought it was like a dude in tight pants spin kicking people and women fainting over it. And then I watched it. I'm like, this movie's actually kind of cool, So like, I watched it. Jeff Healey's the guy that's in the band, which he's not really in the movie, but he gets interacted with a lot, a fair amount throughout the movie. But he's actually blind, and he plays the guitar on his lap, and he does not play slide guitar, which is wild. But if you think about how you're going to play the guitar with it sitting on your lap, and then so your left hand's still the fret hand and your right hand's still the pick hand. So it still works, but his pattern's now backwards compared to everyone else's. If he wants to make a bar chord, he has to use his pinky and then use the rest of his fingers, which when you think about it, that might be easier if your pinky just has to mash down on stuff, and now you have 3 very articulate fingers that can do the rest of the stuff. You just have to get used to it.
It's an advantage.
Bingo.
Yeah.
So the other thing I saw him doing was he would do 1.5 step bends like a lot, to the point where it's like, why is he always doing this? Well, it's because when he bends a note that's high, he has the entire fretboard to move, and he can use his thumb in a squeezing fashion to squeeze the strings.
Leverage.
And he has all the leverage in the world to do all the crazy bends he wants to, and it's like, what? So that's one of those things you start to figure out. Maybe that's not a disadvantage. So, I don't know. I think maybe you took the right track, though. Like, if something bad happens, this would be the route I should take, and luckily nothing happened, right?
Yeah.
All right. Still got them all. All right.
5 and 5, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, just the daily wear and tear of being a construction worker and playing a guitar. Like, let's say you don't smash your finger with a hammer or cut one off or something crazy like that. Let's say you just do everyday stuff. You're laying bricks, you're picking up heavy stuff, you're setting it down. You have arthritis, and all of a sudden it's just like, or your fingers just kind of hurt or whatever, or they become bulkier, if you do construction work, and it's like, that's not always easier to play a guitar when, maybe they're changing shape over the years or things like that, so I don't know. It just makes me think, the different people with their different jobs and things like that. Like my job now is all day on a computer, and I'm realizing that spending all day on the computer, I'm like, starting to dink with arthritis in my fingers again, which I haven't had for years. And it's kind of a weird feeling to go through where you're like, they're just not moving where they're supposed to be moving when they're supposed to be moving there,
Yeah.
So what about slide guitar? You play, what is it, lap slide guitar?
Yeah, lap steel. Yeah.
Did you ever play an upright guitar with a slide? Like, slap one on a finger and...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I play that a little bit. Actually, Walker loaned me a Stratocaster type guitar that's set up for playing slide like that.
Okay.
I've been messing with it a little bit, but I just recently found out that you can tune it to an open E like I do my lap steel and my dobro, and I'm getting used to playing it that way now, and that way they're all tuned the same way, and that's just because I learned it. I was self-taught, and that's the way I learned it. And that's the way the way I tuned it, and I could probably change it, but I'd have to, adapt again.
Yeah, and I always feel like that's kind of weird when you'd play, like, every now and then something's like, the guitar's tuned differently. Well, everything's just down a half step or down a whole step. Or like maybe they're like, this is in drop D, which is not necessarily, maybe that's not your speed of guitar playing, but that was something people did to make power chords easier.
Yeah.
And you could make a slightly lower power chord to make music heavier. I'm using air quotes for people not watching. Yeah. Heavier. But yeah, then you'd get to like some music where it's like, the one that I'm thinking of right off the top of my head is like Bark at the Moon is like a guitar that's not even remotely normally tuned. And it's like, why would somebody do this? There's an advantage somewhere. I just don't know exactly what it is. That's kind of like if you rearrange the keys on a keyboard, it's like there's probably an advantage to what they call Dvorak versus QWERTY, the two types that people have made in the history, but like, I don't know what the advantage would or wouldn't be. With slide guitar, the open tuning, I get that. Yeah. So that way you can lay the slide down and basically go through a whole chord if you wanted to.
You could, yeah.
And then that makes me think like you could, changing the quote unquote shape of the bar chord that you're making might not be as easy, but you could in theory change a little bit of it and pick off different sections of it to make it do exactly what you wanted it to do.
Yeah.
But I would imagine it would be very weird because I learned slide guitar on a standard tuning.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people do. They just go buy the slide because it's, $10 or whatever they cost. Yeah. And then, or you get a piece of copper pipe and you cut it so it fits your finger and you just go. Copper pipe's not even cheap anymore. But you just take that and you just kind of dink around on your regular guitar and kind of go with that. I think that's the route a lot of people go. What made you... Did you know to go open tuning, or did you know to go to open E, or here's another one, like how about open D? Like that's something I've also heard people doing with slide, and people that play a lot of slide are like, yeah, hello, but like I've never played enough slide, but open D is a thing. I've heard people, because then you see a lot of people with open D, they'll pinch it on 2 with a capo, and now they're in open E, which a lot of people play anyways. Where did you take on all this? Did you get a book or like?
No, I got the lap steel first, and it just kind of, I bumped into a guy that when I was traveling out west, bumped into a guy staying at his house, and this is for sale, $100. So I just bought it, and he had it tuned to an open E. Oh. And I just left it. I never did change it, I didn't know any better. I didn't look it up. This was 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So I just always left it in open E and learned to play it that way.
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
And then when same thing happened when I got a dobro kind of dropped in my lap. A friend of mine bought it and he didn't play it, and I said, "Can I borrow that and play it?" And ended up buying it from him, and
That's awesome.
so I ended up tuning that the same way as I do the lap steel, so that and just a matter of time.
Yeah. So, like, one thing this all made me think is, like, you, for people not watching, you grew up before the internet.
Yeah.
So, learning instruments, I feel like, would be infinitely harder without the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you know? I don't. It just you had to pick up pieces of information from here and from here and from here and from here from here over the years and just combine it all, and that was what you knew.
Yeah.
It feels, unless you took a class on it, you know. So like that's probably how you got your music theory pushed into the guitar, and then you were like, well, I've played organ, so I know chords are a thing, and I know that there's every chord name, and then the sharps and the flats, and so you know, first, third, fifth, you know, major, minor, whatever, and then you kind of just figure that out on a guitar and just over time go with it. But man, I just think it would be crazy to try to like learn somebody else's song. You're like, oh yeah, we're gonna learn an Allman Brothers song. Like, how do you learn it? Well, you just sit down and listen to it 400 times and play along with it until you figure it out.
Yeah,
like that would be crazy to me.
Yeah,
is that like the route a lot of you guys had to do, or you just like at a jam you just watch people and then figure it out from there?
At a jam, yeah, that was the fastest way to learn something, was to play with somebody else, you know, just even if it's one-on-one.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Okay, yeah, so like, I mean, that checks out a lot, because when I would play guitar, I played initially in a church, and the church band was like a few guitarists, a bassist, you know, it was just kind of a mishmash of people. There was a drummer, a handful of singers, and whatever. So maybe a keyboardist, I don't know. But like, I spent a lot of my time, I figured out, like, since I can't read, I can't turn around and look at like the music behind me on the giant board, and I don't have the sheet of music in front of me. So I spent a lot of time just like watching what the person across the stage was doing. It's like, well, they're making a D shape, so this is a D chord. And then you figure out the patterns that normally work. Eventually, you know, church music's all 1-4-5 anyways. Yeah. Almost never anything else. Yeah. So like you start to figure out like, oh, G, C, and D sound amazing together, you know, and there's just a few chords you start to like kind of, you know, A, D, and E. Ooh, these are tasty together too, or whatever, you know. So you start to figure out those, and it took me a long time to extrapolate that data into like what happens if you put a capo on. Even though I like took music theory class my senior year in high school from Iowa Central, because they allowed us to do that. But like, yeah, it took me a long time to combine the information correctly. Like, I would say 10 years for me to actually just sit down and figure it out. But I, again, learned the most sitting next to somebody else and either learning from them or bouncing an idea off of them. Or when they would do something, I'd be like, how'd you do that? And like you know, why does this make sense? You know, or where can I put this somewhere else and make it sound good? You know, it was always kind of mind blowing to me that people could do that. It's neat that you got to do it from a young age, you know, being able to do that. Do you think that was more common then than it is now? Do you think the internet has restricted people in a weird way?
I think they have more of an advantage today because you can find it instantly. I mean, me, it was just stumbling across something, you know, seeing a guitar player play a riff on TV that you can actually see what he's doing.
Oh yeah, so you're like, oh, he's up by this fret, so at least I know the place to start. Yeah, you know. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess in my sense, I was thinking like, let's say I want to learn like a pop punk song. You just go on the internet. Here's the tabs. You figure it out, and we're done. You know. But like, what if I, you know, never took music theory, or what if for the longest time I had music theory and I didn't want to sit down and do the math on the guitar to figure out what I was doing and why it made sense. Even though now, having done it for so many years, it takes a second. But then it would have taken me like a pencil and a piece of paper and a road map and a piano there somewhere too, just to look at it to double check. Like, it would have been wild. So I think about that where like there was a long time where I just learned music and I memorized it and I never gave a second thought to like, if somebody was just like, take a solo, I would have no clue what to do, you know? So like, how did you know to first start soloing? I'm sure you knew, like, okay, we're in this key, so here's the steps. But like, when did that first start coming into play? Because you do play solo. I mean, at jam nights, they kick it over to you, and you're like, all right, here we go. Wow.
Well,
You know?
I learned to improvise at an early age, I guess. I knew people that I was watching were improvising. They weren't playing it the same way every time.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Oh, that makes sense.
And you improvise in your mind, and if you can make your fingers match that,
Mm-hmm.
then that's the goal, is to be able to hear it and be able to play it.
Okay, so here's a weird one for you. Do you ever hear stuff that you can't play?
Oh, all the time.
All right. So, like,
Yeah.
when you first started playing, did you hear things that were like, I'm going to do this because it's going to be amazing?
Yeah.
And then when you get down to it, you're like, I actually don't have, I'm not trying to be like dogging on you because this is the way I felt, I guess, but like, I don't have the talent to pull this off. You know, it's almost like I want to shoot a cannonball, but all I got is a little BB gun. You know, so it's like you don't have the tools to actually pull off this thing you want to do. Did that ever occur? And like, how did you overcome that?
Oh, I guess just trial and error.
Yeah.
Just trial and error, making ugly sounds and making good sounds.
Yeah.
know.
Do you think that your inner, so I always think like I have an inner voice of like music, right? And it's like, this is what I want to do, you know, kind of.
Yeah.
Do you think that your brain changed thinkings on like, it just molded to your abilities and was like, well, this is actually what I can do. I know I can do this. Or do you think, because like in my brain, I feel like it has two splits. This is what I hear, and when I'm just like listening to something, I'm like, this would be fun to just add to it. I could never play it, but it sounds fun in my head. And then if I'm like actually playing, my brain says, shut off all this imagination and just go with what you know. And I just default to this other voicing of like, I know my guitar can play this. Like,
Okay. Yeah. That's what I like about improvising and playing with somebody you don't even know the song.
mm-hmm.
That you're just trying to add a layer that enhances it and not messes it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Did it take you a while to figure that out?
You gotta start slow. Don't try and be fast. You know, just stay in tune and go slow, and try and stay in tune.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was the first thing somebody told me was like, if like at the beginning of every song, whatever it happens to be before the show, just tune. Everything has to be in tune, because if you suck in tune. But yeah, I would second everything you said. I mean, you just kind of, when you play a song that's not yours, it probably took me about a year to get it under control, to not just like draw all over the song, basically is what I called it.
Oh yeah.
It's like, here's this cool picture we have. You can color it in any way you want to.
Yeah.
Just stay inside the lines.
Yeah.
And I was like a 2-year-old at a restaurant, just like just all over the
Yeah.
place to these songs that were so
Yeah.
cool. And I feel bad that people had to go through that, but you know, that was my learning pains at jam nights. Like, when do I actually need to be adding something to this?
Yeah.
And the rule of thumb I always found was like, if you want to add a diddly bit, it cannot be during somebody else's diddly bit, and it cannot be during, especially when the singer is singing, because guess what? Nobody listens to Sweet Child of Mine and calls out the chords.
Yeah.
You know, they're listening to what the dude is saying, you know,
You're right on.
you know,
Yeah.
so the only time they do that is during the solo, and that's when that's when the guitar dude is supposed to be talking, and you're supposed to be doing it with the guitar.
Yeah.
You know,
The key to a good harmonica player is knowing when to be playing background and not improvising or playing a solo.
Mm-hmm.
That's not overpowering the other instruments and overpowering the vocalist, but backing them.
Yeah.
Just blending with them.
I can see that for sure, because I think the problem that it has is like most solos, you go up the guitar neck and you play a solo. Well, that's somewhere in the the range of where the person's usually singing.
Yeah.
Same thing with a harmonica. I feel like that you would just want to like wail on it. It's like all you're doing is just bumping into their sonic range, you know.
Yeah.
It'd be tough to find out. I don't know. Again, that's one of the things I think is the best about jam nights. You figure out these things and you go through these growing pains and you do it, unfortunately, at the expense of some of these singer-songwriters that have wrote these amazing songs. Sorry Clint, sorry Jesse, sorry Jeremy Ober for just mucking up so much of your music, the first few years, but thank you for letting me.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
It's super fun. Yeah. So let's talk about some of the bands that you have been in. We kind of mentioned them a little bit. So your kids are out of the house and you decide, I'm going to start playing some music with some people. Like, what were some of the first shows you played?
Just some local private shows around Manson, and then when I got with the Caterpillars, Gene mainly booked those wherever he wanted to go. I'll go play. So
I feel like sometimes those private shows can be like some of the best shows.
Oh yeah, nice. A barn dance or just phenomenal.
Yeah, somebody's backyard on the 4th of July, just some random.
Yeah,
you never know what's going to happen. Those are fun because, like, I mean, I will say, like, not every show is amazing everywhere you go. It kind of feels like that in retrospect, but like, some shows, even like I would call like whatever the duds, are still pretty cool at private events because it's just people hanging out having a good time. Because I don't know. It's the difference between like hanging out at somebody's house and hanging out at a bar, I guess. That's the difference.
Yeah.
It's a little bit easier to kick your feet back at somebody's house, and you can't really do that at a bar.
Yeah.
You got to kind of be, I don't know, I want to say like on point at a bar, but
yeah.
Just different atmosphere from the crowd overall.
Yeah. And that's what I like is everyone's a new adventure. Every place.
Absolutely.
Every night.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing I liked about jam nights.
Yeah.
You don't know who's showing up.
Yeah.
I mean, in Barnum, I know I'll be there. I know Clint will be there because he's running the thing. Dan's probably going to be there. Like you were at basically everyone I was at. You were there most nights. And, there's a few people that would swing through sometimes, about half the time or whatever. But every now and then the stars would align and like everyone would show up on the same night. You're like, this is crazy. We're all here, And those were the fun ones where it's like, oh, I can actually like take a break for a while, I feel like on Tuesdays, I did it. Those jam nights were like basically come on your own accord and play for free, bring your own music and your own everything. That was kind of like just a loose jam night. There wasn't a house band. The house band was just Clint.
Yeah.
There was no guarantees that there was going to be a drummer, which was fun because every now and then somebody else would just get back on the drums.
Somebody fill in.
Do you play drums?
No.
Okay.
I'll try, but
yeah,
nah, I can't claim I do.
Yeah, I'm a 4/4 drummer. That's it. Just your regular rock beat.
I can play percussion though. I made a homemade wash tub kick bass.
Whoa, cool.
And I got a foot tambourine for my other foot, so I play a little one-man band stuff.
Yeah, you could be like your own little hurdy-gurdy machine there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you started playing with some like private shows, Stampeding River Caterpillars. How long have you been with them?
Oh, probably about 10 years now.
Oh, wow, yeah, I guess it has been a while. I'm trying to think. Yeah, that would track as far as like, that's the other thing is like everyone's life. I feel like you have these moments of like, this kind of happened and this is my measuring stick. And then eventually you need to like adjust your measuring stick because you're just like, well, this happened recently. And then you're like, well, that was actually like 8 years ago after a while, you're like, all right, we need to like adjust this measuring stick. And that would track because it was probably about 2016 or 17 I started going out and playing publicly, and that's around the time I met you, so
yeah,
it would totally make a lot of sense. So you play a lot of shows with who else is in the band again?
Just Casey Ackerson now.
Yeah. I remember I saw him at Eagles Club a handful of times, maybe last year when those jams were going on. Talked to him a little bit. So that's he's somebody in there that I guess I don't really know. I guess I don't know enough, to to be able to sit down and like just be like, oh yeah, we've hung out all the time. But he's a cajon player, right?
Yeah.
Bingo. Yeah, he's played like maybe with Clint Riedel a couple times too.
Probably.
And I feel like he's been at places.
Oh, with Jordan, he'll sit in with Jordan too. You know.
Yeah.
Just recently, he's sat in with Jordan.
That's cool.
When Jordan was doing solo shows or.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's the fun part about our music scene in Fort Dodge is like the best part about like not doing the podcast for a year and a half and bringing people on. It's like, well, what's changed? Because it's been probably 2 or 3 years since you've been on the podcast. So let's talk about it. And most people have a lot of stuff that's changed. And nobody in Fort Dodge has like harbors any resentment for anybody for changing bands or doing things. It's just the ebbs and flows of it all. You know,
Yeah.
A new band starts, they have different people in it. You know, I don't want to say like they have a bigger, different push or they want to play different types of shows or whatever. And then before you know it, one band kind of just takes over and the other one kind of goes back burner or like, you know, it's just kind of the way it works. I feel like with a lot of the bands, the growing pain's kind of rough.
Yeah.
But
yeah, just wouldn't change personnel, you know. We're down to the 3 of us, you know, for the Caterpillars and yeah.
Does Gene play acoustic guitar with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, depending, you know, if we got a guitar player, he'll play bass.
Yep.
But, you know, if we don't have a guitar player, then he's got to play guitar.
Yeah, I was thinking. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's see where we're at in this podcast here real quick. Okay, we're 40 minutes in. Holy cow. So there was a jam in Pomeroy at Byron's, and I went to that recently. My favorite part about those jams is there's enough different people that are there that I'm assuming don't go to, like I've been, been to hundreds of jam nights that I've played at, some of them a lot, So now I'm at this point in my life where it's like, I'll go to this jam night. It will not bother me one little bit if I don't play.
Yeah.
Like so much so that I'm like in this part of my life right now where I'm enjoying watching other people play.
Yeah.
I don't know what I want to call that yet, but that's where I'm at. So I go to Pomeroy, I go to the jam. I'll play there, if somebody asks me to, but I'm not going to like try to get up there,
Yeah.
But I noticed Clint's up there. We're going to go outside and he gives you the guitar. And I'm like, it's like I'm mulling it in my brain. I'm just like, well, I guess it makes sense he could play a regular guitar if he can play a lap steel. He probably understands them because I've known you for years, but we've never had this deep of a discussion about all this.
Yeah.
So it was wild to see you get up there and not only play a guitar, but sing and play a guitar. And not only sing and play a guitar, but do it well, like very well. And that makes sense now in this conversation why you said like every now and then you do like weddings or things like that, Did you sing at those too, or did you just play guitar? You sang too. Holy cow. So how long have you known you could sing? Or like, did you sing in school?
Well, actually, I learned to sing going to church. And, my parents took us to church and it was the Mennonite church in Manson, and at that time they didn't have any organ or piano or anything. It was all a cappella vocals, and so everybody learned how to sing 4-part harmony. Mm-hmm. And so I knew how to sing ever since I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. And I when I grew up, I knew I could sing bass. So I got the bottom end if you need a bass singer. Nice,
silky smooth bass. The fun thing about, I always tell people, especially like my students that I don't do guitar lessons anymore, but when I used to do guitar lessons, it's like, do you go to church? And if you do, try and find a way to like play at church. Or play with people that are playing at church because they're probably nice people. They're probably willing to teach you a couple things, and nobody's going to boo you if you're not the best. But I understand that some churches are like crazy professional with their church bands though too. So maybe you won't be able to get up there and play. But that's kind of how I started. That's also like where I sang. even if you can't sing, make a joyful noise. That's the whole thing or whatever. Well, nobody told me I sucked at singing. So I got into school, it's like eighth grade or something, and they were just kind of like, well, you're not the best singer. Maybe don't go out for chorus. And it's like, nobody ever really taught me how to sing. They weren't just like, hit this note, here it is on a piano, and this is what it looks like on a sheet music. Like nobody ever walked through that. They were just like, here's your music, sing it. It's like, I don't know, I talked about it in the last episode with Jacob Williamson. Like, my vocal cords didn't have frets. There's no like keys to hit. So I didn't really know what to do. So I'm not the best at singing. It's really cool that you are, and being at church, that was an advantage to you. Where like, that's where my like the funny joke, I guess, for me would be like, it wasn't to my advantage for somebody to do that. So, all right. We got somebody coming in and out of the door here. So did you ever like, I guess, do you sing in Stampeding River Caterpillars? Let me ask you that.
Mainly backup vocals.
Okay. Because I know you've, when you would show up to jam nights, you would always kind of just do an all-in-one thing with your amp and then just be like, everything's kind of plugged into here, and you'd have like a vocal mic going into your amp too. So if you wanted to do backup vocals or bust out a harmonica or something, you could.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let me see here. Do you like playing the slide or the guitar better?
I like playing the slide better.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, more expression for me.
Okay.
I can solo better, I think.
Okay.
On the lap steel and actually on the dobro too.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. What about so what kind of music do you guys like in the Stampeding River Caterpillars? I'm assuming you play slide guitar in there.
Yeah.
So what kind of music what kind of music would you call that then? Or like what wheelhouse is that?
Well, we're pretty grassy.
Yeah.
We're out around the campfire a lot and play. We get pretty grassy. Mm-hmm. So for a long time we had a bluegrass book, and we just pick a page in the book, and here's the lyrics for I'll Fly Away or something like that.
Yeah.
So playing stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what kind of shows have you guys played? I know I've seen the Caterpillars at Rockin' Picnic once. Have you guys?
Yeah.
What kind of shows have you guys played with the Caterpillars? Because you said Gene just kind of books them, and I know Gene's played everywhere probably. So like he's probably got a big book to choose from. But like, where kind of places do you normally play?
Oh, what was the one downtown? The bar downtown that Patty's Pub. That closed a long time ago.
Yep.
And that was.
Yeah, I guess that was
Home Away from Home, I think, for Gene.
That's 5-6 years ago. Yeah, it closed. Yeah, he had a lot to do with that place.
Yeah, I think he was the house band there for,
Yeah, I remember Gina talking about that. How that was actually in an episode of FDT, like the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association's podcast. Let's see here. When does this come out? Oh, that's on tomorrow's episode. If you're listening to this the day it comes out, so maybe I shouldn't let the cat out of the bag. But Gina had mentioned that Jeremy Ober and Gene specifically like had a lot to do with it. And Mark Gales just helping to keep things going. Like they were the cornerstones for that place.
Yeah.
Oh man, I saw Gene at a jam up at the Eagles in Fort Dodge not terribly long ago. He was one of the house musicians there, and boy, oh boy, I like his bass tone. I mean, he's had a lot of years to carve out what he likes, but he's got some fun stuff going on there. And it's also fun to know. Like I knew Gene could play guitar, but now that you're down a member, I guess again, it's one of those things. Like it never really occurred to me that Gene. I assumed he was the guitar player in the 3-piece Caterpillars band, but like, I don't know. I think it'd be fun to go watch him because I always see him playing bass. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like you. I've seen you play slide guitar for 4 or 5 years, and I saw you sit and sing, and I was like, how have I gone this long without seeing you do this? And I don't know. Do you ever feel like you would want to do any sort of solo gigs?
I have a hard time remembering lyrics.
Hey, me too.
And I don't have the endurance that I once had. I couldn't play for very long. I don't think I have the stamina to do a solo thing.
I mean, what if this is gonna sound crazy? Because I came from the world where like I was in a rock band, punk band, thing like that. Every show was like there's 4 bands on the show, and everybody got like 40 minutes, and they'd split it all up and do changeovers or something. Like everybody gets a half an hour or something. So we didn't have to play very long sets, and I always felt like that needed to be somehow, in a sense, incorporated into what I would call like the cover band world, where it's like, yeah, we can have one band here and they can crush it for 4 hours, but how fun would it be if you had a singer-songwriter play for 40 or 50 minutes before the band came on, and now the band only has to fill 3 hours. Yes, you have the full band would have to hire somebody to come open up for them and pay them, but like you get this full show experience. What if somebody asked you to go up there and play a 45-minute set? You know, like what if, I'm just throwing out there, like what if Clint was just like, you want to play 45 minutes in front of me, you know, the next time I play at Byron's or something, you know? Do you think that would be something, maybe you'd go that route then?
Yeah, that's a possibility.
It's a possibility.
I might be able to do half an hour or 45 minutes.
Somebody coax him into it. I want to go to this show.
Well, but that's another thing. Byron's is a special place for me. That's like a field of dreams to me. Mm-hmm. You know, it's good medicine. Mm-hmm. It's music is my sport.
Oh, I love that.
That you know, it's got all the same elements that football and baseball have. You can do it solo, but you need a team, and you need all kinds of talent beside you, and you can have a winning team every night, and there's no competition.
Wow.
You go home a winner every time you go out.
I love this analogy. I'm a big fan of analogies. I've never heard this one. I've never considered it or thought of it. This is like genius level stuff here, because it makes me think like there have been teams that have won, and imagine this, you want to have one all-star on your team. You always got to have an all-star. You know, every band has one, it seems like, but there have been bands with 0 all-stars that have just absolutely slayed because they have teamwork. You know, they're used to playing as a team. If something goes awry, they know how to fix it, you know. I mean, I'm not trying to like pick people out of bands and just call them what they call them, you know. Nothing wrong. I'm just going to go to my band because it'll be the easiest one. Nothing wrong with Three Finger Betty. Nothing wrong with John playing leads, my rhythm playing, and whatever. But like a lot of people after shows go up to Clint, the drummer, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy! I can't believe you can do this," because he's the guy that is like, you know, the standout. He's in like 6 bands. He drums for everybody. He's the man, you know. So sorry everybody, John, whatever. Sorry everybody, but like he's like the quote unquote all-star, I guess you could call it, of the band, you know. And coming from the punk world, it was always that they either had like the best drummer in the world or the best bassist in the world for some reason, and it was, you know. But that makes a lot of sense, this analogy, and I really like it. You know, especially the fact that you said you're not competing. You're not actually going out there and you're playing, but you're not playing against anyone.
No,
you know, unless
absolutely not. We're loving the other team.
Yeah, it's the crowd is the other team.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, unless you're on stage with another team, you know.
That's true. Yeah, you
sharing
want them.
Stage.
You want them to do good.
Yeah,
get everybody jazzed up so we can go up there and do the same thing.
Yeah,
or you want to put everyone in a good state of mind for when the next band after you comes on stage. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So you've played on stage and you've played in front of people and you've had a mic in your face. Do you feel like do you feel like you're much of a, I don't know what to call it, the stage presence vocally? Like Jesse is the guy that talks.
The front man.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have any of that in you? Because I'm glad I'm not the front man, I guess.
You know, I've always been the quiet man. Mm-hmm. You know, I just play the music, you know. But I've come to like storytelling a lot now, and I like musicians that tell stories too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm to the point where I would like to share some stories along with my music, and so that I might be moving more out in front than.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to change that persona from being the kind of the hermit, to connect with people and meet people and tell my story and listen to other people's stories.
Yeah. I mean, that tracks because, even at Byron's, you played a song, and the song was a John Prine song. Do you remember what it was?
It was, yeah, it's my wife's favorite song. It's Blow Up Your TV.
This is what I'm talking about. So you told a little story. It's not a song you wrote, but you have a story that goes with the song and why you like the song.
Yeah.
And it feels like you had mentioned how it feels like it's kind of like your life to a tiny extent, like there's bits of it that really apply to you, and that's why you like it. It's your wife's favorite song. Those are like the little stories that I think you're talking about. You tell the story that goes along with it, and then you have the song, which is a story in and of itself. Anyways.
Yeah.
Those story songs are some of my favorites, but I also feel like it's the hardest to remember the lyrics because there's just so many words and they don't have to rhyme. And sometimes the dude just wrote a story and then put chords to it. And he's like, I'm putting all these words in here. Okay, I guess so.
Yeah.
And you're not somebody, we were talking about it. You drove here and I gave you the address and you just drove here. You didn't GPS nothing.
Well, yeah, I did GPS it, but I'm not very good at it. Mm-hmm. So I had to be rerouted. I didn't want to take the right.
Yeah. So you don't strike me as the kind of person that would go up there with an iPad on your stand so you could see all the lyrics. Probably.
I probably can't do that.
Yeah. Does it seem blasphemous to do that, or?
No, I don't. That doesn't bother me at all to see other people doing that. Just because I understand, I could use help remembering lyrics many times.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to jam nights to sing songs, and it's like, first verse again, boys. Send it around town. And then somebody leans over to you halfway through, and they're like, you should have sang. This was the actual opening. And I was like, what? Now you tell me. So I don't take this. I don't sing much for that simple reason, and I don't hold it against anyone that brings a tablet up on stage at all. I don't know. There's so many things. I feel that's one of the things that's like a weird line drawn in the sand by musicians. We're like, you're not a real musician if you got your phone up on stage or something. It's like, dude, back in the day. Okay, this is gonna sound crazy. So before phones, if you wanted to do the electric route, there were teleprompters, and the teleprompters were up on stage. And I've seen people go that route. Ozzy Osbourne had a teleprompter for a handful of his shows. But before that, it was a literal binder with sheets of music in it.
I've got one of those.
I have part of one too. I gave a whole bunch of them, to other people over the years because I don't need them anymore. But I had one of those where even, before bringing a phone on was something that could be done. And I just got passed a note here from my producer. All right, cool. Thanks. But yeah, I don't really hold it against anyone for doing that. Just for the simple fact that I had to. So much so where I've only ever played at 2 solo shows ever by myself playing guitar. And one of them, I had a music stand with a binder full of music up there with me because that's how I did it. That's how I had to do it. There was stuff that I had played stuff that I had organized in a fashion that was not online anywhere. So I didn't want to go through and make it and then put it online and then put it into some tablet or some crap or whatever. I guess I could have taken pictures of everything. Whatever. The more you know. I don't know. But I don't know. So here's another thing I want to kind of go by you just before we kind of wrap this up here. But guitar pedals, you were saying you're not really somebody that just goes crazy with a bunch of tech. You're not like a tech crazy guy.
Yeah.
But I have seen you use a guitar pedal or two before. So is that something that you're like intrigued by? Like, does guitar tech intrigue you more than like tech, I guess? Like, if you were going to buy a new amp, do you only look at certain things where you're like, oh, I got to have this one because it's got reverb built in, or it's got to be a Fender because the cleans are the best, or like, what do you?
Well, I was brought up very frugal, and my wife is very frugal too. We weren't wealthy people, and so I didn't spend a lot of money raising a family on my hobby, you know, and I didn't buy guitar pedals or anything like that until the kids were gone, and the only pedal I got was a tube screamer for my lap steel, and then when that took a crap on me, I had to replace it, and somebody else recommended, what is it called? A blues driver.
Yep.
A blues driver pedal, and that got me the sound that I wanted on my lap steel. And so far, I'm happy with it anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have a lot of equipment, and I don't have any pedals for my my dobro, and I should, but the pedal for that is really expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Like a $400 pedal, and
Guitar
I
pedals.
try to get by without it.
Yeah.
You know, just try and play at a lower level with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's something that would be different because your dobro's essentially an acoustic instrument.
Yeah.
That when you play it, you're putting it through an amp. So, like, there's certain things you have to be careful of with like the levels on it and stuff.
Yeah.
Like if you turned a tube screamer on with that, it might whine at you a little bit, you know?
Yeah. Get angry.
But I think that's also super fun because you've played that at jam nights and everyone's like, you know, take it away, Dan, and you're over there playing that, and it's like, oh, we all have to come down to Dan's level a little bit because he can't wail on this thing, you know. And that actually adds like a fun layer to us as musicians where it's like now we're doing volume control, which is something that like I've harped on for like the last 10 years. It's just some people just put it at 10 and play at 10 the whole time, and it's like, what are you doing? And some sound guys just crank it up and blow everybody's eardrums off. It's like, what are you doing? I'm getting old, Dan. but yeah, volume control is like super important to me. Dynamics, they're in music for a reason.
Yeah, so, I love dynamics. When a blues player drops way down low and just picks real slow and quiet, and you can hear every note, and the whole house goes quiet. You can hear it throughout an auditorium.
Yeah.
At that slow and low, that's what I like. That's low dynamic, and then build from there.
Yep. I actually saw that recently at Byron's. I'm not wearing the hat, I don't think. No. The Matt Woods. That had a show at Byron's recently where he brought it all the way down to the point where he did not have his amp on, and he's playing an electric guitar, and everyone was so quiet. Even the bassist and the drummer are like almost silent in what they're doing, and you can hear what Matt's playing. And it's
on an unamplified electric guitar.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was just like,
isn't that amazing?
It's so cool. It's so cool to have that be a thing, you know, because you can sit and plunk around on an electric guitar. It doesn't make a whole lot of noise. As a matter of fact, if I had one in my lap, you might not be able to hear it on this microphone. It makes so little noise, you know, but if we were just sitting in this room, you could hear that somebody, anyways, it was cool. It was really cool. So, I think while we're getting down to the end of this here, is there anything we didn't cover in here that you want to talk about on the podcast before we take off?
Well, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you, and especially Clint, for hosting the Tuesday night jam at Barnum. And, you know, that's changed my life, you know, literally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. That I've met a lot of people since coming to the jam at Barnum, and that's drawn me out. I'm willing to come over to Dakota City here and jam with you guys one of these nights on a jam night here. And
absolutely.
And then Byron's, of course, I'll probably be at Byron's the first Thursday of the month. Do
you ever go to the Eagles jams? I think I've seen you there a couple times.
I try to get there. It is kind of hard for me to get out. My wife doesn't get out very much, and I hate to leave her at home all the time.
You're still a family man. I love it.
Yeah, I'm dedicated first to her, and I can't be leaving her all the time.
I love that. I love that so much. Yeah, those jams in Barnum were something special. I echo 100% of your sentiments, and I'll say it like this: that was all Clint Riedel. That was all his determination and what he did. Week after week after week after week after week for 5, 6, 7 years. I think maybe he was doing that. So hats off to Clint for that. That's how I met you, and that's one of the reasons you're on the podcast today. And
my thanks to him too for getting us together.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Clint, and thanks, Dan, for dropping by the podcast. If you guys are looking for anything Stampeding River Caterpillars, I'll put the links in the description. So if you're watching this or listening to this anywhere, just scroll down a little bit, and they'll be right down there, and just click on them and find a show. Because you guys do play shows. Maybe not a pile of shows, but you do play in the summertime.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I don't know if we got anything. Since we lost a member, I don't know if they've been booking anything. So I don't know if we got anything coming up. But
no, book them for a private gig. You won't be disappointed. You get an Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Famer and a couple of absolute bang-up guys to follow along and I write with them. So you guys are cool. Dan, you're one of the nice guys out there, man. You're always nice. You're always willing to play music with whoever, regardless of anything that's going on. I said it at the beginning. I'll say it again. You could change all the musicians and it'd be like a funk song, and Dan's like, I'm going to play and we're going to figure out a way to make this sound good. And you always do, and it's always great. And I think that's one of the funnest things about you. It's an inspiration for sure.
And thank you. It's always a pleasure for me too.
There we have it, episode 250. Dan is such a fun podcast guest. I had so much fun getting to know him even more over this podcast. One of my favorite things he says, music is my sport. That's such a fun way to put it. And, as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, it's the title of the episode. So, love to talk to Dan. It's fun to get to know, how everything progressed. And, before and after, we had plenty of good conversation, too. I just feel like he'd be a good guy to just sit down and talk with on another podcast. So maybe I'll bring him back. You never know. So thanks, Dan, for dropping by, hopping on the podcast. And thank you guys for listening. And thank you to the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association. Be sure to check out their podcast. It comes out tomorrow. Check out their YouTube channel. You can watch the episodes. It's really fun. They're all in different locations and fun places. Or you can listen on any podcast, wherever you're listening here, and all the Audible Farm stuff is audiblefarm.com. I still do have a few hats left. I think I've got a couple in each color still. So if you need a hat, hit me up. Otherwise, you can see I don't know. I like them. They're nice. Check them out if you're not watching on the video version. You can find them online. And the Facebook, Facebook is where I post them. Facebook and Instagram has the pictures of the hat if you guys want to see the hats. So thank you guys for listening, and I will catch everybody next week. Peace.